when I was coaching some people, I started looking into personality tests, trying to find, is there a good personality test that I can use? I found that they were all preference-based, things that you like, not behavioral. If you like the idea of being healthy, but you're not making healthy decisions, it doesn't help you to say you want to be healthy. I built a 20-question quiz. It took me 4 years, 3 years, probably $250,000 in design time and work and rework. With those 20 questions, we help people look at their lives from money, health, relationships, career, and fun, with the idea that everything we do in life toward one area of our life takes away from other areas of our life. So if you go to chrisjarvis.me/wildfactor and then you put in the
code's going to be launch24, LAUNCH24.
Yep, and they'll get it for free, save $20, and they'll get a 19-page custom report that tells them your natural tendencies, your dominant voice, to improve other areas of your life. One of the gentlemen the next day said, in 40 years of going to meetings, everybody has given me content. You're the first person to give me context.
Welcome to Mission Control. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0, and liftoff.
We have the one and only, the Giraffe himself, Mr. Chris Jarvis. Welcome to the show.
Woo! Thank you very much.
Chris, welcome. You are the author of Be the Giraffe, 14 Paths to Reach Higher in Business and Life, among other things.
That's all we have to do on this episode is help you reach higher in business and life. And what are we going to do with the second half of the show?
I don't know. I mean, we can talk math. You know, this is not your first rodeo. You've written 16 or 17 other books. You're very prolific. TED speaker. I mean, we can go on and on. You know, you're on a number of boards, but you're here. We're glad you're here in the flesh. I think the last time we had you on Zoom, and we didn't have Jorge here, so let me introduce Jorge.
He's a fan of the giraffe, and if you let me, I'll drink that whole coffee carafe.
Wow, I think he just made that up.
Nice.
And of course we have
freestyling him.
And we have Kevin on the soundboard.
Good afternoon.
So I was saying the last time we did a podcast was like during COVID, I think, or it was on Zoom. It wasn't like this.
You gave me COVID.
I think so. over the airwaves,
That's
right? Over Zoom. So you're here. You're here visiting your mom.
I am.
And we're here because we're celebrating the launch of your new book.
Be the Giraffe. There we are. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be. So.
Well, I mean, and we just had our power lunch, which I thought was very impactful. We had a few community business leaders here. Some of them joined online, and so thank you for that. And just it was kind of like, I think ultimately the common denominator, whether you're a nonprofit, a business, you know, an executive, is just finding the balance. And one of the things I took away was there really is no such thing. Right? I mean, something's got to give.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's the reason for this. One of many reasons for this book. Chapter 3 is balance is BS, and the idea that anybody who's been successful in life in anything that they've done, you have to sacrifice other things in your life to get there. So you can have it all. You just can't have it all at the same time.
Ooh,
and
I like that.
yeah, that's. So
But Jorge has coffee and energy drinks at the same time. So
that's.
Listen, one's
He's
for
gonna
fun,
sacrifice his heart.
one's for energy.
yeah, something's got to
I need
give.
a
His
hydration.
cardiac health.
Yeah.
That's going to be his heart.
His heart or his gastro system.
As long as the
Everything.
website launches, Kev.
I mean, how many websites did we launch last week? I mean, we had a good rhythm going.
Keep him churning.
Arrhythmia, right? That's what he's talking about.
That's right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's you know, I spent all this time working with really successful people and helping them with their financial stuff. And then I learned all the cool business things that came from working with people who were super successful. So that was great. But then I learned that the third piece of this, there's money, there's business, and then there's life. A lot of people who are successful just aren't happy. They're uninspired, they're unhealthy, they're unmotivated, they're just not getting what they want out of stuff. And so much of it is so much of the coaching of these businesses and business owners came down to, God, when the business did well, the people didn't. And there just had to be a better way. And that was the research over the last number of years, is looking at the people who were happy and successful and inspired and motivated. And really, I really wrote the book for myself. When I set out to write the book, I wrote the book for a younger me because I needed help and I needed not to stumble so many times and learn from so many mistakes and waste so much damn time trying to fit in and figure out who was I and what do I do and what box do I fit in, only to realize there wasn't one. And then I realized that as I was writing it, I didn't just need it for a younger me, I needed it for a today me. And so many times in this book, I wrote something and I stopped and said, I was like, all right, I have two choices here. I have to take this out of the book because I'm a hypocrite, or I have to actually learn this lesson. So it became, I don't know how this book came to me. It did through vision, whatever you want to call it, divine intervention, meditation, luck, I don't know. Energy drinks, coffee, amphetamines, I don't know, whatever the cocktail.
No, listen, I do want to get to that. I want to hear about the inspiration behind it, and maybe you can share some of the wisdom in it, some of the billionaire secrets. But first of all, we always like to start the show with something that could be of value to the entrepreneur, the business owner. And I think the metaphor, the example that you're giving here, because you've been doing this giraffe thing for quite some time. It started out with, you guys remember, we worked with him on Doctori, and there were giraffes as part of the logo. So the giraffe has been...
It's got to be the number one question. Why the giraffe to begin with?
Yeah, and before you answer that, there is value in being memorable and having something recognizable. And I think a lot of business owners could benefit. With us, we use the launching and we got the rockets, and it gives us a theme and a motif that people remember us by. A design element. You have the giraffe. Why did you pick it?
It was the only one that was left. No,
it's like Monopoly. Like it was the one piece that you could.
I had
choose.
to be the shoe. I was the shoe. No,
never the iron.
Never the
iron. Iron's probably the
right.
worst one.
Yeah, right. Just purposely hand that one to my wife, and it always goes over well. You should try this. It's called an iron.
Oh no.
We'll
make sure she doesn't hear this episode. So.
No, she doesn't. My family doesn't read any of my stuff or listen to my stuff. It's the giraffe was a couple things. There was a time when I was searching for myself, and I did start asking people. I took the time after I don't remember if this was when I think this was when I got kicked out of a company I started, and basically my partners had said that you got nothing left, you're a waste, we're just going to push you out, and you're done. And I questioned whether that was right or not. And then I started asking around the people I worked with, or I had worked with in the past, what do you get? Like, you worked with me, what was it like? And they'd say, oh, it was great. And I'd push a little further and say, how? And what I got from people was, when I get done talking to you, I'm thinking about things differently. And so this idea of a different perspective became really important. And so that I was thinking, okay, well, is it the eagle with the eagle eye? Is it, what is it that makes people different? And then I started looking at the giraffe, and I realized that the giraffe had evolved in a way other animals hadn't. It evolved to be more vulnerable. It's the only animal that evolved to be more vulnerable, not less vulnerable. Every other animal that's a prey animal found a way to protect its neck, because that's what the lions, hyenas, dogs will try and bite and kill its prey. So as I was thinking about that, I started thinking about vulnerability and sticking your neck out and doing things differently. And that resonated for me. And I started doing more research on the giraffe. And cool things like a giraffe's fur is like an individual's fingerprint. It's yours and it's only yours. They're all different. And then just so many different cool lessons in the book, which we'll get into later, the 14 cool lessons in the book. But the giraffe, it sticks its neck out. It's non-migratory. So unlike all the other animals that follow the reins in a very predictable pattern, the giraffe isn't that way. The giraffe can go where it wants to go. So it'll see things others can't. It'll reach things others won't. And to me, that led to I must have signed books for the last 7 years. Elevate your perspective, see a better path, be the giraffe. And that was my go-to signature on any of the books that I sold or I gave to people. So that really worked. That fit for me, the finding a better path, not being stuck, not being in a cage, not being unmotivated. I mean, I started a business when I was in my mid-20s. Always did things differently. And that just worked for me.
And where does the purple come from?
Classical high school, baby.
The Purple Knights.
That's right. That was Ramon and I went to the same high school 150 years ago.
When he had hair. He had a full head of hair.
I did.
Full head of hair and dinosaurs roamed the earth. I see.
Pretty close. That's right. That's right. And it was a long time ago. And I mean, well, they say it was purple. Everything was black and white back then. There was no color. So,
Yeah.
But now we also purple. I was in the finance space, and everybody uses blue, and everybody uses green, and everybody uses gray, and I just
Right.
didn't
Stand out.
Yeah, I didn't want that. So I picked purple and orange really as the colors that I was using for branding. And I wanted combinations nobody used. I wanted things that would stick out. You commented on my purple shoes when I walked in today. And if I had blue shoes on, that wouldn't really be a big deal. If they were black, that wouldn't be, that big a deal either. If they were red, I don't know what that look. I need a big nose to honk and you'd be a clown. But it's
Ramon hides his red shoe.
Homie the Clown, yeah.
yeah.
No, I was thinking of Homie the Clown for some
You don't
reason.
play that?
Don't
Yeah.
play that.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Rubber chicken.
so good. So the giraffe was, I also I wanted an animal that was a prey animal, not a predator, because I feel there's so much of this is being in business is being helpful and being, not devouring your competition. I wasn't interested in the shark or
The wolf.
the wolf. Yeah, right. Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, it's great to name yourself the apex predator, but I don't know that that's very inclusive.
Yeah.
So the giraffe was. It just made sense about standing out, reaching higher, seeing things others can't, having the freedom to move. Because most of my life I felt not having the freedom, and so for me, being stuck is the ultimate. It's the ultimate punishment. That being stuck in your spot, in your station, in your economic position, in your town. I mean, I moved away when I was 23, and I haven't come back. So, and I went from Providence to Boston to Los Angeles to Austin to Dallas. So, I don't know what's next. Maybe Colorado, maybe Utah, maybe Costa Rica, maybe Italy. I don't know, but we'll see.
I also love the analogy of being vulnerable, because we share that quite often in our brand workshops. Tell your story. Where your superpowers come from, your adversity, the things you've gone through, and even you hear people say all the time, sticking your neck out, and you got to take risks in life. And so I think it's a strong metaphor. It's memorable. It's purple. And I was actually expecting you to walk in with a giraffe today of some sort, even if
The day is young.
it's possible.
The day is young.
It's possible, but there's also right after this break, we're going to hear about the wild factor and all the different animals and how they all tie together and how they can help you balance in life when we come back. Hey, by the way, we want to announce a new website that we're launching. It's called brandgreek.com. It's going to have all kind of D9 collateral. So it'll be your source for all things fraternity and sorority. We'll be producing chapter logos, chapter challenge coins, backdrops, step and repeats, retractables, even a website for like a charitable foundation that your organization might have, and more. So come check it out. Visit us at brandgreek.com.
I've been so intrigued about the story and the origin of Jarvis, and for the longest time,
Not Cookie Jarvis, by the way. That was his
that's
nickname
another
back
story.
in the day.
Well, see, I'm sure there's a bunch of stories. Just the connection that you guys have, going all the way back to Rhode Island, going all the way back to classical, and
High
my
school, yeah.
most of my career here at Peralta Design has been a touch point away from the Christopher Jarvis. Right, it's like Kevin Bacon, only it's a Dominican guy, and
Stay with me.
and so there's so many things I've been curious about, but I haven't heard a lot about. Chris Jarvis, the mathematician. I know Chris Jarvis. I've never got to meet Chris Jarvis, the mathematician. I've always wanted to know
Do you
more
think
about
his head's that big for no reason?
I mean, there's
There is a story about that. So Ramon's wife just came back from Barcelona, and I was actually there. And I'll tell you the story of the big head. Is I was walking around Italy.
getting
I walk
nervous, by the
around
way.
Spain. Every single time I go to Europe, it's unseasonably hot. I've been there 15 times, and they always tell me, no, this is unseasonable. Well, it's every season. It's always hot, so I don't know what the hell you're
You
talking
just
about.
bring the Serengeti with you as
It
the
is
giraffe.
so hot.
Right.
Anyway, every time I've been there, it's hot, and I walk around, and I'm walking around Spain, and everybody has these giant, they look like German Steins, these 30-ounce glasses of beer. And every time I went somewhere, I got a glass, and it came in like a 12-ounce Pilsner glass, and I'm like, it's 100 degrees out. Can I just get a giant beer? I just want a giant beer. And I'm sitting there, and it's 11 o'clock at night. We're at a restaurant. We're the first people to show up at a restaurant in Barcelona. We're outside, and what I thought was the waiter, I guess, was a genie. But when I said to him, I was like, for God's sake, for the love of God, just please, can I have a grande cabeza? And he just,
Oh, God.
and he actually just pointed and went, ta-da.
You have one, sir.
You have one. Yes, exactly. My wife didn't speak a word of Spanish, had no idea, so I had to translate it, and she found that utterly hysterical. That yes, so I was so tired, and that came out cabeza instead of cerveza, and
so close.
Yeah, so close, and it was, and I got that wish,
Yeah.
and there it was.
It's
So
kind
just
of like pantalon and plátano. People get that one messed up. It's like either pants or
you could.
plantains.
I understand. Yes, and you've worn both.
I've worn both. I've worn both. But right before we took the break, we mentioned the wow factor. I think you've built something quite amazing with.
Yeah.
It's like Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Yeah.
How did you come up with all this?
So it came to me that in working with all these people, money is attached to business, and with the business owner, business is attached to life. So the tagline on the site, money differently, business differently, life differently. If you're an entrepreneur, those three things they're intertwined, never to be detangled, because your life is tied to your business and your money, and they're all connected. And when I was coaching some people, I realized that the life stuff was a big issue. And I also realized that people have this fear of missing out, and they're always on their phones, and life is brutal. And I also found myself every day, ending my day, beating the hell out of myself with all the things I didn't do, just super negative on all the stuff I had. And I was like, this has to change. And I started looking into personality tests, trying to find, is there a good personality test that I can use for myself, for my clients? I took every single one of them that I could find, and I found that they were all preference-based, things that you like, not behavioral. Like, so you can like something, but if you like the idea of being healthy, but you're not making healthy decisions, it doesn't help you to say you want to be healthy. So, long story longer, I built a 20-question quiz. It took me 3 years, probably $250,000 in design time and work and rework and all kinds of different things to get to this level. I wrote every bit of it myself. And with those 20 questions, we help people look at their lives from money, health, relationships, career, and fun, with the idea that everything we do in life toward one area of our life takes away from other areas of our life. And depending on your scores, you get, to your Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom reference, you could be an eagle, an elephant, a dolphin, a monkey, or a penguin, and all the cool things that go with the imagery of the animal. So if someone says you're a 7 or a blue or an E, it doesn't mean anything. But with the animals, you get a pretty good idea that, if you're trying to guess which one of those animals is the fun one, it's not a stretch, right, to get to the monkey. So what I find in this quiz, people get a 19-page report based on your 4-minute quiz that tells you in your life, what are you focusing on and what are you not focusing on? And it creates unbelievable conversations with people and their spouses, people and their employees, staff, customers, clients, prospects. It creates a lot of great dialogue when you find out where people are focusing their time, what they sacrifice, what the dominant voice in their head is. It's a cool thing, and everyone who's listening is going to get a chance to take that quiz. And I think you've got a code for them that will be in the show notes.
Well, we can announce it. And where do they find that quiz?
Yep. So if you go to chrisjarvis.me/wild factor, you can find it there. I think there's also a URL, Find Your Wild Factor, which redirects. But chrisjarvis.me/wild factor, and then you put in the code.
The code's going to be launch 24. LAUNCH 24.
Yep, and they'll get it for free, save $20, and they'll get a 19-page custom report that tells them whether you're an eagle, an elephant, a monkey, a dolphin, or penguin. How do you use your natural tendencies, your dominant voice, to improve other areas of your life? So how do you kind of do your life hack? It also gives you some pages on how to be careful not to be too much of something. So based on your natural tendencies, it can work to your favor. It can also be a little much at times. It might cause pain in other areas of your life. And then there's a separate section on how to address your lowest area of your life. So the thing that you're normally sacrificing. So very helpful. We all do that. We all sacrifice something in our life. When push comes to shove, there's something we give up. So maybe everybody needs stuff from us, so we throw money at the problem and we end up with less money than we need. Maybe we put the time in and our health suffers because we want to make other people happy. You know, it could be anything, right? So we all have these different tendencies, and it's a really interesting thing. I'm super proud of it. I was at a meeting doing a talk for 300 salespeople, and it turned out that 290 of them had health as their low score. I said, well, okay, so this job's killing you.
But they're in health insurance.
Well, they did life and other things, but there's salespeople who are all making money based on, like, they can work
at their own expense.
At their own expense,
health.
correct.
Yeah.
So one of the gentlemen the next day said, I talked to my wife about your presentation, your keynote last night for a couple hours, and I was a little bit of a smart ass and asked, well, do you always talk to your wife about the speakers at insurance conferences? And he's like, yeah, real funny. No, this
It's
is
like coming home and telling your wife about your golf game.
Right. Yes, I know
don't
better.
care.
Right, I understand completely. Yes, I get that. And it's and he said no. He said it was different. In 40 years of going to meetings, everybody has given me content. You're the first person to give me context. And I was flattered by that, and I use it in every keynote, in every presentation, in every workshop. I always start with the wow factor. And the idea then is, once you get your scores and you know what your lower scores are the ones that you'd like to improve, the question isn't, when you see a speaker, could I do that, or could I make money with that? The question should be, is the speaker telling me something that I can put into my life that's going to help me improve the areas of my life that I want to? Because our natural tendency, let's say you make a lot of money, but your health sucks, or your relationships aren't good, or you don't take care of yourself, or whatever it is, you're naturally going to look at the things that you've already demonstrated you know how to make money. So if someone shows you an idea that's about making money, you jump all over it because it's what you've naturally always done. It's normal. But you shouldn't be asking, if you're already making a lot of money but your health is a mess, you shouldn't be asking, how do I make more money? You should be asking, how do I find a way to balance my life and get some health, or do something a little healthier? So it just creates, having the score it creates context for you when you're making decisions in life. And is this thing I'm about to do going to make the most important area of my life? Is it going to have a positive, a negative, or a neutral effect? And if it's positive or neutral, you go forward. If it's negative, it doesn't mean you definitely don't do it. You just ask yourself, well, I don't know. Like, if I had a chance to be on Joe Rogan's podcast, would I travel? Like, yeah, I get it. The reach is big enough. I'm traveling. Maybe I didn't want to travel, but sure, like, it makes sense. But it's so it just gives people context, and it's something that I guarantee anybody takes it and reads the 19-page report, they will find something interesting. And if you do it with your staff, you're going to learn how your staff make decisions. You're going to learn how your customers make decisions. And that's really, invaluably, when I do marketing and sales consultations for firms, I have them use the wow factor with their staff, with their prospect, with their clients, so they can understand how they make decisions, and they understand what they won't do for themselves, because then you can step in and be invaluable.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into the billionaire secrets and some of the 14 lessons that are in your book, I want to get you to share a little bit about what was it like, what were you like before you became a giraffe? Because on the cover you've got the evolution. It goes from the evolution of man, and it ends up as a giraffe. But you had a very storied career, you very successful. You could have easily just bought a home in Majorca, right, and disappeared. Right. But maybe something happened that made you want to do this to help people. So what's the why behind Be the Giraffe?
Let's see. A bunch of things happened. I would say sold the company in 2016. shortly thereafter, I got kicked out of the company. Well, I had spine surgery. My younger sister died. She was transgender and over-medicated to death. Healthcare system, it was before her time, and everybody just made fun of her. And it was she didn't have an easy life and wasn't treated particularly well. Both parents had incurable cancer. Had a friend die. I mean, like, a whole bunch of things happened. And in a way, I felt, okay, it's my job. I was given all these gifts. I need to do something to make the world a better place. So I went on a bit of a crusade. That ended up being also a little bit of a slaughter of myself. It's a lot of time taking on the need to fix everybody's, it's a lot to do, and realize that really wasn't, I wasn't going to dedicate my life to changing everybody else's. It was hard.
There's a bit of survivor guilt.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Without a doubt. There was, I remember having this conversation with my youngest sister, who's still alive and living outside of Charlotte. And I can remember saying, I was given all these gifts. I just have to figure out what to do with them. And she asked me the question, which did change my life quite a bit, was, did you make these? Did you make all these things happen? I said, no. They were given to me. And she said, well, if you were given the gifts, why do you think it's a puzzle that you have to figure out how to use them? Wouldn't you think the opportunities will just present themselves? Grand design, master plan, universe, God, whatever.
Yeah, predestined.
Yeah, there's like, if they're going to give you
preordained.
It'd be a sick joke to give you a bunch of gifts and then make you have to spend forever trying to figure out the Rubik's Cube of it. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit of sense.
Take some pressure off, anyway.
It certainly took some pressure off. It took some pressure off, and I leaned back into working with entrepreneurs. And this book, as I said, it became, as I was doing a lot of meditation and I started the book, and when I started the book, I got about 70% of it done in the first 4 months, and then I waited 4 years to finish it. And I had to get to a place where I really felt good about me and what I was doing, and I started writing it for a younger me. And as I said earlier, I realized that, oh shit, this isn't for a younger me, this is for me right now. And I thought every entrepreneur just needs to be thinking about, there's so much out there. What am I doing? What am I doing differently? How can I make this business work? How can I connect with people? Just all my life lessons seem to be coming out in a way. It's written in a little different style than I've written in the past.
I was going to say, because you've written 17 books.
Yeah.
But there's something about this book that's different.
Yeah.
The response you've been getting, the testimonials, who they're from.
Yep. Yeah, it's been life-changing for a lot of people, because there's no economic model for this one. I wrote a lot of books to get clients comfortable with advanced business. Either hire me as a business consultant, or hire me as
the glorified business card.
Yeah, a lot of them were that, and some of them were really good. And I've had 3 or 4 or 5 bestsellers that have done really well in the high-end. Giraffe Money Essentials coming out. I've written a few for John Wiley. I've had some successful books, but this one. There's actually a very interesting story, if we have time for it, on how this book came out. But from working with Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. But this book, when it came out, there's something about the world needing right now to people feeling like they can fit in. There's such a desire and a need to fit in. People feel so alone. We have these devices, these phones that they were designed to connect us to data and connect us to each other. And ironically, they've brought people further and further apart. So you can see people sitting at a restaurant; they're all on their phones. People sitting on a boat, on a vacation, and the whole family's on the phones. And I mean, really ironic that the thing that you thought was going to connect you to stuff has absolutely alienated people to the point where you need dopamine hits every, 2 seconds to live. I mean, it really has. I mean, good God, it's like the Terminator and the Matrix, and I mean, it's really unbelievable.
It's connected us on a global scale, made the world that much smaller, but yet individually, locally, we've lost some of that ability to be present and some of that connection to the people right next to us.
Completely. I mean, 100%. And so I feel like this book opens up so much of that and addresses the need for people to. So let me step back. So in this desperate need, when people are feeling so alienated and so alone that they want to belong to something, so as a result, they try to find their tribe. And the problem with that is people are you left or are you right? Are you Democrat? Are you liberal? Are you red? Are you blue? And then to fit in with a group, you feel like you have to accept everything that group belongs to. So if you're fiscally conservative, now all of a sudden you have to be pro-gun, pro-life, anti-abortion, anti-gay, damn the pronouns. You have to take everything, pro-government. You have to be pro-Trump if that's just because you're fiscally conservative. And then if you're on the other side, you have to take that whole basket of, it has to be anti-gun and pro-gay and pro-abortion, and you have to go so far. And
Extremes.
So extremes. I mean, there's a story in the book here about my wife who actually taught virtual school years and years before the pandemic. So she launched a couple of virtual schools, both the private and a public school. And when the pandemic happened, she was the only person who actually knew what this was about. But my town, South Lake, Texas, is severely divided politically, and you had the religious right, super conservative to one side, and then you had the far left, which people like to say fueled by the Californians who moved into town. But regardless, you had these two super divergent, very loud groups arguing about school. And it became political, that it was if you were a Democrat, then you had to not, everybody needed to wear masks, and everybody needed a vaccine, and everybody needed to go back to school, needed to be in a bubble. And if you're Republican, there was no vaccine, and, which is all bullshit. But she posted a letter on how to address when everybody was starting to go back to school. The pandemic was March. Now you're getting to August, school's going back. And she posted a letter, the same exact letter, it's in the book, in the conservative group, and she posted the same letter of advice in the liberal group about how to address how you should look at online school for your children. And the result of that, she got kicked out of both groups.
Wow.
So where I'm going with this is the challenge is not the challenge is in an attempt to fit in because we're so desperate because of the phones, you lose all your individuality, and now you just have to join a group and accept everything that they give you. So like you can be somebody who's pro-gun or who wants to carry a gun and hunt, who might also be pro-choice. You could be somebody who's fiscally conservative who also loves their, gay nephew. Like, why does this have to be?
Right.
Why can't people be reasonable and be individuals? But it's much easier to control people when you can put them in a box. And so for me, with Be the Giraffe, the lesson one is get your head out of the weeds. So let's be mindful and intentional of what we do and why we do it, and then let's not be afraid to break free from the herd. You don't have to do what everybody else does. When you're in a herd, all you can see is the ass in front of you. And that's just not a way to live. So I felt, again, for me, that being prisoner was the worst thing, that we're all individuals. The giraffe is individual. It's not migratory. It looks different. It acts different. It doesn't try to be a zebra or a wildebeest. And I think each person has something unique about them, and it's being lost. I mean, it's just being lost, not just economically or in business, but just in life, that you can't be yourself for fear of being ostracized or being kicked out of the group because you're, God forbid, right? That you can't be, whatever.
You don't fit in the box.
Yeah, in a box that's very rigid and very specific,
Yeah.
and you don't get to have any individuality. At the end, we're all individuals. So it just felt to me, timing-wise, this book needed to be there, and I've had some great results from my niece who was unsure about what she wanted to do in her career, from my daughter who's looking at colleges, and she was just so anxiety-ridden from making a decision, and she told me that the book gave her some comfort. So I think the book is going to be parents and children reading these things saying, hey, what did you get out of this? Because we all want our kids to follow who they are and not try and just fit in and not, right? All the anxiety, especially with teenagers, and but it's not just teenagers. It's a lot of people who want to fit in, and why are they doing things, and why are they in their job? And so it's not meant to be disruptive from an anarchist type perspective, though I can't say I wouldn't have some joy in that. I like being disruptive, but this is disruptive for your own benefit. Back to context. What is it you want? And maybe you shouldn't be a nurse, or maybe you shouldn't be a lawyer, or maybe you shouldn't be. It's not because I don't want there to be nurses and lawyers. It's just let's just have some context for why we do things and be mindful and be intentional. And so I feel like the giraffe it's a weird animal who does a lot of weird things, but there's 14 cool stories about that giraffe and how it fits in your personal life. And I mean, I really think this book is going to, I'd be shocked if it didn't sell 1 million copies. I'd be shocked if it didn't become a big bestseller, and not because there's some economic driver, just I think people need to reclaim their individuality and be okay with, You could be Catholic and not appreciate the Pope's position on certain things. You could be Republican and criticize, not have much respect for Trump. You could be a Democrat and think Biden's too old. You don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, you can have individual thoughts, and that's
Right.
like, why have a brain if you're not going to use it?
It's clearly not not a political book per se, and it's not
At all.
A book for billionaires, because the folks that you're mentioning are young people that are feeling impacted by it. So what are some of the lessons that we might find in it that can help us all?
Yeah, so there's 14 lessons. They're broken down into thinking differently, seeing differently, and acting differently. So different. You start with your head, and that is understanding that you have to get your head out of the weeds. If you're not thinking about what you're doing and questioning it, what's the point? So many of us get on autopilot. We just do things, and then time. I mean, driving here today, it's a 2-hour drive. There was, there's a good 30 miles in there. It was like, I don't remember going through any of that. Like, that's right.
Just flat.
I went through. Oh wow, I'm in New Haven. So many of us just go through autopilot and do things, and that's just not a great way to live. To not be mindful of that.
Right.
So you start with that, and then you get into avoid the masses and the asses, which is just doing things because everybody else is doing it. It might be right, but question it.
Right.
Like, just ask yourself: Is this what I really want to do? Is this giving me what I want? Is it what I want out of life? Am I happy? Just asking.
I love that so many of this is so applicable in so many different phases of your life. I find it so refreshing to kind of give the things that every day that you've become so accustomed to a fresh perspective. And even I think about this with my youngest, who, just to question everything when she's 6, and just the reality of the world, right, is such that we, you can believe what's kind of put out in front of you. And I love that I love just challenging that, just questioning, is this valid? Is this true? And being able to, to look at that with that fresh perspective. Like, she's, she has a couple of YouTube creators that she really likes. And me being the parent, kind of, watching what she's watching, and, just letting her know, like, hey, not every single thing that you're going to see is going to be the truth or is going to be valid. And I think being able to have that fresh perspective and give your kids that guidance to be able to not just follow along and to find your own path, I think is so valuable.
Yeah, I really do think that's a big deal. And why not take a chance and just ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is it worth? You can always answer the same. You can always answer that it's something that you thought was valuable a year ago is still valuable. The answer could be yes, but it might be no. I mean, that, again, just ask yourself, how is this serving me? There are chapters in here. One is build your tower, and the other is avoid lions and hyenas. And the idea that, obviously with giraffes, lions and hyenas eat the giraffes. But the application in personal life is somebody bringing positive energy to your life or somebody bringing negative energy to your life? And you should spend less time with the people who are spending, which seems really easy. But if you wrote down the list of the 10 people you spend the most time with, and then whether or not those people are positive or negative, someone who's always bitching and moaning about their job, their career, their spouse, their money, their parents, it's just not, I just don't have a lot of patience for anybody who's blaming other people. I have no patience for victims. Now, you could be a real victim, but someone who plays victim, I'm just not.
Yeah.
There's just like, dude, what can you do about that? So let's take some responsibility and see what we can come up with. And I mean, sometimes bad things happen. And I'm on the board of a lot of nonprofits, so I'm happy to help people who are less fortunate. But I don't have time for people who are constantly complaining. I like being around people who dream. And that idea that you're the average of your 5 closest friends. If your 5 closest, look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Whatever they are is what you are. If they're rich, you're rich. If they're poor, you're poor. If they're funny, you're funny. If they're cynical, you're cynical. If they're racist, well, you are too.
Guess what?
Yeah, right. Like, dude, that's whatever they are. But if they aspire to big things, then you're going to aspire to big things. If they're really charitable, you're charitable. Because you just wouldn't spend all your time. Right. It's unusual. Or they wouldn't spend time with you. Right? Like people don't, there's confirmation bias socially. So people like to spend time with people who are like them. So even for me, I started I was the teacher in a lot of rooms, and I started walking into rooms where I'm not. I mean, I'm spending a lot of time with people who make a lot more money than I do.
Yeah, I mean, you've been with Jack Canfield,
Yeah,
Jay Abraham.
Yeah, I did a movie for Jay Abraham, and now I'm working with Dan Fleischman, and I'm working with, a bunch of my clients are people you wouldn't know, but they're 35, 45-year-old people making $10, $15 million a year. I mean, I'm guiding them on certain things, but we're working on projects together. We're building businesses. We're building Fundify. I mean, we got a lot of, it's big, impactful. I'm not working on a lot of projects that might make $100,000. I'm working on businesses that might be worth $1 billion or might be worth $10 billion or might be, because it's just intellectually stimulating, not because it's the money thing. But it takes no more time to dream a big dream as it does to dream a small dream. So why, doesn't mean you should live in La La Land, but why not dream big? And so some of this book talks about the people in your life and what are they giving you, and you should ask that question, right? Because if you constantly put yourself in bad situations, right? You're hanging out with guys who are getting arrested. There's no way all your friends get arrested and you don't.
You know what they say? Well, this won't apply to you, but if you hang around a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut.
Well, right, yes.
I'm right behind you.
Yeah.
I'm right behind you. I think I'm just keeping my barber in business. It's like
He just likes the conversation.
yeah.
He goes down.
He's like, yeah. You keep coming. Yeah, give me that $40.
He replaced the scissors with a towel. just shine that baby right on up. But it's, there are so many different, some of my favorite chapters in there are different things, but it is a philosophical book. It's a great book to talk about with your spouse or partner, with your kid, if you have an adult kid or it's, older teenage kid, your employees. I have a lot of people that are giving me feedback. I thought the book would be great for young entrepreneurs. I didn't realize how great it would be for people in their teens and 20s, that they would really see I didn't realize how much, because my kids are 16 to 21, 22. I didn't realize how much anxiety they were carrying. I mean, just because my dad rightfully thought that our generation was soft, and I would say we were relative to our parents, right?
That's true.
And then
they were built different.
They were built differently, and then their parents were in World War II, completely different, and then their parents even harder, and then their parents were in the Depression. So this whole idea that it gets worse, like
dirt,
they
dust and dirt
right.
sandwiches.
They ate the people who aren't here anymore, and then you had the people who killed
You're taking
people.
us back to Jamestown.
That's right. Right. It does get easier.
Yeah.
So we think our kids are just soft, which of course we're responsible for. But
and we didn't even get into your dad being a Major League Baseball pitcher. That would have been another tangent.
yeah, well, what I learned from, now it's funny, life is about the stories we tell ourselves. And when I was really little, it was super cool to say my dad played for the Red Sox, because at the time he was the only person from Rhode Island to ever play for the Red Sox. So he was a bit of a celebrity. And
I'm glad I drove up that night to meet him.
Yeah, at MIT. Yeah, when I lectured up there. Yeah. That was a cool experience. When I lectured at MIT, that was around the Six Secrets book. And I had friends from childhood. I had Rob Whalen from childhood. I had Ramon from high school. I had Rich Gravlin from college. I had Scott Licklider from business school. And then I had two people from Jen Kaufman, who I met from she was actually involved she was hurt in the Boston Marathon bombing, but I had met her through the Canfield community. And I just had people from all different stages of my life who all were there. Then I had people from the insurance world who had been wholesalers I had worked with on some projects. So I had people from all different parts of my life, all were there to see me speak. And what was cool was during all the AV check, I couldn't talk to people, but they all found each other. And I looked up at one point from behind the mic when I was working with Sean at the Venture Cafe, who was putting the event together. They had all found each other and they were all talking. And they were talking to my dad and talking to Robbie, and Ramon. They were all there. So it was a super cool event to see people from so many different
come
together. And I didn't do any. I invited everybody, but I didn't. Yeah, that part was super cool. So you get to meet him. But the story about my dad was, part of that is you get the story of you can do anything, because he did the unthinkable. But later in his life, I remember him telling me that everybody wanted to celebrate his career, and he said, I thought I was going to be a Hall of Fame player, and I got hurt. So, his first game he pitched was a complete game, 1-0 loss to the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. And like, he was great, but then he got hurt and his career ended. So for him, some people think the fact that he played is so cool. He said, yeah, I made it and then it was taken away from me. So it was all pain. And so at first it was super cool when I was a kid. Then when I got older, I told myself the story, the coolest thing about me isn't even about me, it's about my dad. And so I made it a victim thing. That like, I'm not even, like, people don't even care about who I am. It was it was more who he was. And it was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So, and then it came full circle to, it doesn't matter what he did or didn't do. I mean, I had a great relationship with him before he died. And
I was proud.
He was proud and I was proud, but we had a great relationship. We had a friendship. But I get past that story of I learned things from stories of resilience and stories from my parents. And most of my books there's a different, this book, Be the Giraffe, is actually written to my mother as the motivating factor in the beginning, but Giraffe Money was to my dad. And so there's just stories. But he played back in the day when guys didn't make any money. So my parents got divorced, and we had welfare. My mother went to community college. She worked full time and went to school and collected welfare to try and raise her kids. And I was the latchkey kid coming home and trying to getting beat up every day after school. But your parents are divorced, so you're ashamed to tell them you're getting picked on, so you're just going through 5th and 6th grade getting.
You don't
want
to add to whatever they're doing.
Yeah, that's right. So it's like, all right. I mean, we all have everybody has stories. They just like, all right. Well, they're just things that happen. But I mean, there's I share a lot of the stories in the book. I share a lot of stories from clients. So there's a lot of positive and a lot of negative. It's not a sad thing, but it's these are just perspectives, and you can take with it what you want.
So somebody walks in right now, bookstore, they go online, they're looking for something to read. Why should they buy Be the Giraffe?
If your life isn't all unicorns and rainbows, then you might want to give it a read. I mean, it's a 2-hour read to read the whole thing. It's going to give you context in your life in the beginning with the wow factor. It's going to give you, it's a pleasant read. It's a quick read. It should make you laugh. It should absolutely make you think. There's no doubt about it. I guarantee you will think about some part of your life differently. If you, for good or for bad, it doesn't. It's the Matrix with the red pill and the blue pill. It's the red pill. You are going, not because I know it. I think I struck a really good metaphor. You and Jorge touched on it. The metaphor with the giraffe helps. It makes it really stick. And why wouldn't you want to look at your life a little differently than you have the ability to change it? And it gives you tips on how to change it in business and how to change it personally. So if you're unhealthy, uninspired, uninterested, if you're overextended, overcooked, like that's, if you're over or un, if you're in any of those things, then why not? Like, give it a shot to see, just look at your stuff. You might get some cool marketing tips. You might get some cool business tips. You might get some insight into how to look at your kid or how to look at your partner or how to look at your employees or your customers. It'll change the way you look at things. It's by far my best book, and it finally got done because I had 7 or 8 different business opportunities. I had a couple books that were drafted. I had a whole lot of things, and my wife asked me the question, of all the things, if you died, of all the things that are on your plate right now, if you died, which one would you regret not having done? And I said, it's Be the Giraffe. If this book didn't get out there, that would be a shame, because I just knew there was something in it that's just thought-provoking and inspirational and motivational. And I think it's my best book. It will be the biggest success I've had by far. I can't say how it came to me. Like, I didn't want to be the author of, the best transformational book on the planet. Like, that wasn't and if it turns out to be that great, if something better comes along, that's great too. But I think it's going to do great things because for whatever reason it was meant to.
Absolutely. I 100% believe it. And where can people find it?
Amazon's the easiest. It's where they sell 95% of books in this world. You may have a small bookstore, and if you do, good for you. But for the rest of the world, Amazon, Be the Giraffe, Chris Jarvis, Jarvis. It's
launches today.
Launches today. Today is the official launch date. It's on pre-launch. It hit the bestseller list in 7 categories. It's in 3 of the categories today. So it's doing well. It's great. And if you don't love it, I'll buy it back.
Wow, that's a promise. Hey, everybody, make sure you check out his website, chrisjarvis.me, for the Wow Factor quiz. And there is a code you can enter called Launch24, so you can get that free assessment for you and your team. Make sure you pick up his book. Chris, we're so glad you chose to launch your book here with us at Mission Control and at Peralta Design.
3, 2, 1, blast off, baby. I'm happy to be here. Great to see you guys, and always love to be here.
All right, man. Appreciate you. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch